The history of Israel is rich with diverse periods that have shaped the Jewish people and their traditions. A room designed as a maze, split into four sections, offers a unique way to explore the evolution of Israel's history, each section representing a pivotal time period. These sections reflect the passage of time and the individuals who, through their wisdom, leadership, and perseverance, influenced the preservation and continuation of Jewish traditions. The leaders selected to represent these periods are not only symbols of their time, but also exemplify how they stepped up to create lasting traditions even in their later years. Through these figures like Moshe Rabbeinu, the Ramban, the Chida, and Chaim Weizmann, we see how the old traditions were not only preserved, but also transformed, ensuring that the legacy of Israel continued to thrive.
The biblical period, which spans the rise of the Jewish people and the formation of Israel, marks the foundation of the Jewish identity and law. It was during this time that the seeds of resilience were sown, as Jewish thought and laws adapted to new realities and continued to influence Jewish life and culture. Abraham, our elder, taught us that we can start believing and embody these beliefs at an old age. Moshe Rabbeinu, or Moshe, stands as a leader of the period and the pivotal figure who guides the Israelites out of slavery in Egypt. Born in a time of great oppression, Moshe led the Jewish people for 40 years through the wilderness, ultimately bringing them to the edge of the promised land in his old age. Well into his 80s and 90s, Moshe continued to serve as a divine talk between God and the Israelites. His leadership was not only marked by his physical endurance, but also by the unwavering commitment to the spiritual well-being of his people. The act of receiving the Torah at Mount Sinai is one of the most significant moments of Jewish history, and it happens when Moses was already over his 80 years old. Even later, as the Israelites wandered in the desert, Moses did not shy away from his duties, offering wisdom and moral guidance. Despite the overwhelming challenges and his own personal doubts, his perseverance and resilience in his later years paid the foundation of Jewish law and tradition that would endure for millennia. The leadership of Moses at an advanced age amplifies the idea of true wisdom, commitment, and influence grows stronger with time, particularly when it rooted in deep spiritual purpose.
During the Islamic and Crusader periods, Israel experienced a complex history of shifting rulers and foreign domination. The region came under the control of various Islamic caliphates, including the Umayyads and the Abbasids, which brought with them both challenges and opportunities for the Jewish community. The Crusader period also marked a time of intense conflict, as European Christian forces sought to establish control over the Holy Land. Even through these turbulent times, Jewish scholars continued to thrive, preserving and enriching the intellectual and religious traditions of the past. The Rambam was one of the most influential Jewish scholars of the Middle Ages, whose life spanned from 1135 to 1204. Born in Spain, he lived under both Islamic rule and the Christian Reconquista. Maimonides achieved greatness not only as a halachic authority, but also as a philosopher, physician, and scientist. His intellectual contributions came at a time when Jewish communities in the Islamic world were striving to balance the influences of Greek philosophy, Islamic thought, and Jewish law. Maimonides' greatest work, the Mishnah Torah, was completed when he was in his 50s, but his work continued well into his later years. Rambam's symbol is this interpretation of the menorah from the Beit HaMikdash. Rambam's influence in his old age was profound, even though he was dealing with his challenges of age and health, including suffering from significant physical ailments. In his later years, Maimonides' dedication to Jewish scholarship did not wane. His works were foundational in shaping Jewish law, ethics, and philosophy, and his ability to bridge ancient traditions with contemporary intellectual movements ensured the preservation of Jewish thought through turbulent times. Maimonides' ability to contribute so significantly to Jewish intellectual life and to his advanced age reflects the theme of growing influence through wisdom and devotion, proving that age is not a barrier to leadership and innovation.
The Ottoman rule period. The Ottoman period in Israel, which began in the early 16th century, was a time of relative stability, but it also witnessed the challenge of maintaining Jewish and cultural religious life under a foreign empire. The Ottomans ruled much of the Middle East for over 4 centuries, and during this period, Jews, while often living as a minority, enjoyed significant autonomy to practice their religion. However, the Ottomans' influence over the land and the governance of local communities meant that Jewish leaders had to balance between preserving their traditions and accommodating the demands of the empire. This period saw the emergence of important Jewish figures who contributed the religious and cultural development of the Jewish people during a time of relative peace. Rav Chaim David Yosef Azulai, known as the Chida, was one of the most prominent scholars of the 18th century and a central figure in Jewish intellectual life during an Ottoman period. Born in 1724 in Jerusalem, the Chida was a renowned rabbi, Kabbalist, and scholar whose influence extended well beyond the land of Israel. He traveled extensively, visiting the Jewish communities in Europe, going as far as England and Holland, and the Middle East, compiling an enormous body of work on Jewish law, ethics, and mysticism. In his later years, the Chida's scholarship flourished. By the time he reached his 60s and 70s, he had written hundreds of books, many of which are still studied by Jewish scholars today. In his old age, the Chida's role as a teacher and spiritual leader only grew in importance. Despite dealing with the health challenges and pressure of living under the Ottoman rule, he continued to engage with scholars across the Jewish world, fostering intellectual exchanges and creating a legacy that helps solidify Jewish continuity in the face of adversity. The Chida's remarkable output and enduring influence demonstrate how one's contribution to tradition can intensify with age, especially when that individual has an unyielding commitment to the preservation of Jewish knowledge. His later years are not spent in retirement, but were marked by productivity, guidance, and the shaping of Jewish life, making him a central figure in the spiritual life of his generation.
This ribbon represents and honors the Bibas family. The Jewish community worked towards the establishment of a modern Jewish state, with an increasing focus on creating institutions that would preserve Jewish culture and identity. This period laid the groundwork for the eventual founding of the State of Israel in 1948. It was a time of preparation where the Jewish community, inspired by their ancient traditions, sought to build a future that honored the past while addressing the needs of the present. Chaim Weizmann, a central figure in the Zionist movement, played a pivotal role in the establishment of the State of Israel. Throughout his life, Weizmann worked tirelessly to gain international recognition for the Jewish people's right to return to their ancestral land. In his later years, especially in his 60s and 70s, he became a key figure in the Jewish political and diplomatic spheres, advocating for the establishment of a Jewish state. Weizmann was the first of a long line of wise elder leaders who created Israel into what it is today. Weizmann's influence only grew as he advanced in age. In his 70s, he became the first president of the State of Israel, a role that he held from 1949 until his death in 1952. Even though he was in his late 70s and suffering from health issues, his diplomatic and political acumen ensured that his vision of a Jewish homeland was realized. Weizmann's ability to continue shaping the course of Jewish history in his later years demonstrates that the lasting power of tradition and leadership. His old age did not mark a decline in his influence, but rather a continued drive to fulfill the promise of a Jewish state, proving that leadership and vision can remain potent even into the later stages of life.
These 4 sections reflect the enduring influence of leaders who, in their old age, helped to preserve and transform the traditions that defined Israel and Jews' culture and religious identity. Their wisdom and dedication ensured that, regardless of the external challenges faced by the Jewish people, the spirit of tradition lives on through generations. The Kotel represents how Old Jerusalem is, a symbol that has stood as a beacon for Jews throughout the ages, representing that one day we can go back to the old city in the good old days. Thank you.